They thought it was just a school trip. One yellow bus with 15 bright children and a beloved teacher heading out on a crisp autumn morning. But that bus never came back. For nearly 3 decades, parents were left with nothing but empty graves, unanswered questions, and sleepless nights. And then, 27 years later, a grieving mother stumbled upon a single photograph. A photograph that shattered the silence, exposed a chilling truth, and unleashed a story darker than anyone could have imagined. This is the haunting, true story of the class that vanished. It was September 28, 1996. The kind of morning where parents kissed their children goodbye without a second thought. Lunchboxes packed, smiles exchanged. The bus rolled down the street, bright yellow, windows slightly fogged from the autumn chill. Inside, laughter filled the air. 15 children, bubbling with excitement, and their teacher, Mrs. Carter, who was more like family to many of them. They waved from the windows. For the parents, it was just another school outing. Hours passed. The sun began to set. The bus should have returned by then. Mothers stood at doorways. Fathers paced sidewalks. But the bus never came back. Police were called. Search teams combed highways, rivers, and back roads. But there was no trace. Not a single footprint. Not even the faint rumble of a stalled engine. 16 souls had vanished, swallowed by the earth. Fast forward 27 years. It was September again. Laura had just left the cemetery when she stopped by her old friend Helen's house. Helen had also lost a daughter that day, Sally. The two women sat together, sipping tea, reminiscing about lives cut short. Then Helen brought out something unusual, a folder of old police photographs she'd requested years ago but never opened. Inside was a faded class photo, a picture that didn't match the official story. Laura's hands trembled as she pointed at the figure standing behind the children. That's Principal Brooks. But Brooks was never supposed to be there. Official records claimed only Mrs. Carter and a young assistant accompanied the children that day. Yet here she was, in plain sight, standing behind the bus. It was the first crack in the case in nearly 3 decades. Laura couldn't ignore it. The next morning, she drove straight to Principal Brooks' house. The once respected school head was now gray-haired, fragile, and seemingly harmless. She smiled faintly when she opened the door, but her eyes gave her away, nervous, darting, unsettled. When Laura showed her the photo, Brooks stiffened. That picture must have been taken earlier. Before the trip, she insisted. But Laura wasn't convinced. Then, from the corner of her eye, Laura spotted movement upstairs. A young woman's shadow, lingering, watching. She said nothing then. But later that evening, standing by Rory's grave, Laura saw the same young woman again. This time, she approached. The woman's voice was shaky. "My name is Audrey Whitman," she whispered. Laura froze. Audrey was one of the missing children. But she wasn't a child anymore. She was 32, alive, scarred, and carrying secrets no one else dared to share. Through tears, Audrey revealed the nightmare. The school trip was never an accident. It was orchestrated. Principal Brooks had ties to a trafficking network. The bus was diverted, the teacher framed, and the children separated. Some perished within days. Others were sold into exploitation. And Audrey? She survived because Brooks kept her hidden as leverage, as insurance, as a twisted act of control. For 27 years, Audrey had lived in silence, trapped in fear. But seeing Laura's grief broke something inside her. She couldn't hide anymore. Police reopened the case instantly. Brooks was arrested. Under questioning, she cracked. She confessed everything. The traffickers, the smuggling, the cover-ups. She admitted she planned to frame Mrs. Carter, ensuring the world believed the teacher had betrayed her students. But Brooks was just a pawn. A shadowy figure known as Torka was the mastermind. For decades, he had operated in silence, untouchable, powerful, always a step ahead. Now, thanks to Audrey's courage, the truth was unraveling. Weeks later, Audrey tried to rebuild her life. She invited Laura to meet at a quiet diner. It should have been safe. But as Audrey excused herself to the restroom, Laura felt a hand grip her arm. Within seconds, she was dragged into a back room, soundproofed, locked. Audrey was already there, bound to a chair. And then he appeared. Torka, the man behind it all. Cold eyes. A voice that dripped with menace. You should have stayed silent, he sneered. The nightmare wasn't over. Just when all hope seemed lost, a gunshot echoed. It was Lola, the diner's waitress. Kind, unassuming, always smiling. She had seen the men take Laura and Audrey, and in a moment of pure courage, she followed. The struggle was brutal. In the chaos, Lola fought back, giving her life to save the two women. But before she fell, she made one desperate call, 911. Police stormed the diner. Torka's reign of terror ended that night. The truth was finally out. Families who had grieved for decades finally had answers. Laura, though still broken, found a strange kind of peace. She looked at Audrey, survivor, fighter, proof that even in the darkest stories, a spark of hope remains. And though Lola's sacrifice came at the highest price, her bravery ensured that silence no longer won. 27 years of shadows were ended by a single photograph and a mother who refused to stop searching. This story is more than tragedy. It is a reminder of resilience, of courage, and of how truth has a way of clawing itself into the light, even decades later. Because sometimes the past doesn't stay buried.